I'm just gonna let the video and the audio, speak for itself. I'm gonna give you little to no introduction. Just listen to this, okay?
I was at the doctor this week, and I first and foremost don't want kids. So I was asking her about getting my tubes tied to make sure I never have to have kids because I have so many side effects with birth control. She was like, "You're never going to find a doctor who's going to tie your tubes at 28." Which made me think, so me as a grown adult woman, a doctor won't tie my tubes in case I change my mind that I may want kids one day. However, doctors are castrating children. But I'm a 28-year-old woman and a doctor won't tie my tubes in case I change my mind? Make it make sense.
Louder for the people in the back. That was perfectly said. People on both sides of the aisle do realize deep down that this is a serious issue. So you can do these procedures as a kid, stop your ability to go through puberty naturally, natural biological functions and processes. And you can not only stop your puberty, but you might also, stop the ability for you to reproduce in the future as a child. And that is welcomed and encouraged and celebrated. You will be praised for doing these as a kid because you're so brave and strong and powerful. But as soon as a seemingly normal, she seemed pretty normal to me, adult woman, a 28-year-old woman wants to make a change because she doesn't want to have children. The doctor refuses to do that and says, "Oh, but you might change your mind." Well, what about all the kids who end up changing their mind later? I feel like we don't always think about those people and those children, not even people, that was a wrong word for me to use, those children, because we are constantly celebrating them and thinking, "Oh, you're a little depressed. You must want to be the other gender, the other sex. You must have been born in the wrong body." Whereas now we have a fully, developed intellectually, physically, a 28-year-old woman who's saying, "I don't want to have children. Please, tie my tubes," basically. And she's being told no. But don't worry, we can castrate our children in the name of being woke and accepting and inclusive, but not for a fully grown woman. In fact, here is a video that I saw on Twitter today from a child detransitioner that talks exactly about this. Take a listen.
Hello, as some of you might know, my name is Ash and I am a detransitioner. I recently made a little video on this topic, not really explaining much of it, and got quite a bit of backlash in my comment section, so I just want to come on and share my story. And some of you guys, you're gonna hate me for this, but I need to speak the truth. And I don't care what you say in my comments, I'm not gonna turn my comments off. Growing up, I didn't really show any signs of gender dysphoria. I was perfectly happy with my body and being a girl, and of course I was uncomfortable with, puberty and stuff, but that was for other reasons. Every girl is uncomfortable with their changing body. And when I was 13, I started to struggle a lot with depression, anxiety, that sort of stuff. I spent a lot of time on the internet, specifically TikTok, way more than I should have, rather than going out in the real world, especially with COVID and everything else that was going on. Now, at the time, there were a million videos of all these trans people coming out, and because I was so unhappy with myself and who I was, I thought that that might be what was wrong with me, and I convinced myself that that's what was wrong with me, and that's what would fix me. And I went really far to pass as a male, to the point where nobody that I knew that I was born a female. Here's a little picture of me from that time. Had the facial hair and everything. When I first transitioned, I really didn't have any issues with my body, but as I went on, I realized that I needed to fit into this box if I wanted to be a male, and because of how my body did not fit into that box, I became increasingly more uncomfortable with it. But it wasn't gender dysphoria, it was me trying to fit myself into a box that I simply didn't fit into. In a way, I sort of brainwashed myself into thinking that I had gender dysphoria. And naturally, this brought me into a really bad place mentally, where I started struggling with drugs, self-harm, suicidal ideation, all that stuff. And I assumed this was because I wasn't male enough, but it was really because I wasn't a male at all. I got on testosterone when I was 15 years old, and the thing that I think is absolutely wild is that I went to one appointment before I was given my prescription. One. You might be thinking, oh, well, they probably asked you a ton of questions. Nope. They barely asked me anything. I basically walked in there and was like, "I'm trans," and they were like, "Okay." They didn't question me. They didn't sit down with me and question and talk, like, is this really what's right for you? They were just like, okay, this is the next step in your transition. We'll give it to you. I was on testosterone for about 6 months, and luckily it didn't affect me super bad. I can still talk in a higher range and pass as female. Of course, there's a lot of changes that are permanent that I'm gonna have to live with for the rest of my life. After about 2 years of living as a male, I realized I was wrong. But I didn't come out about that right away. I stayed living as male for another year before I really finally decided that I needed to do this. And it was one of the most scary things that I ever did. I've faced so much backlash. I've found it that people are so quick to accept trans people, but so quick to criticize detransitioners. Once I detransitioned, all my mental problems were gone. I'm happy. That was my issue. The fact that I'd convinced myself that I was a dude.
What I found really interesting about that is toward the end when she said she felt like the problem was she wasn't like enough of a boy, but the real issue is that she wasn't like a boy at all. And then I love that she was like, and now I'm happy and I'm like, being myself and I'm like the happiest that I've been. That's what I think is the point, like the talking point that a lot of the crazy Democrats and leftists and woke liberals don't want to hear. They don't want to hear these stories of like Chloe Cole, for example, and other detransitioners who are much happier and more, included and feel more welcome and like they have a purpose, because the Democrats and the leftists and the woke people on the left only want to hear the stories of people who are saying, oh, I'm so much happier now that I'm, the other sex, or I'm so much happier now that I'm trans or that I'm non-binary or whatever. They never want to hear the stories of people who, they hear those stories and they're so happy. And I bet a lot of these kids are happy at first because I think this is the fix and this is what's gonna cure them, And then the Democrats, they go, okay, thank you. There's our talking point. There's the audio that we needed to hear. We're glad that you're happy. But then what they don't follow through with and follow up with is that, months, years, sometimes in these cases, later, the kids are not happy. And in fact, they're even worse than they were before they even transitioned. But the woke people on the left don't care about that. They just want to hear that someone's happier after they became trans, and that's all. Whereas a lot of these kids, it's unfortunate that a lot of children doing this are realizing, I should never have done that. I was young. I couldn't make that decision for myself. I thought that I wanted to be a boy, but in fact, I just was uncomfortable with my body like many other, children going through puberty are. And now they're coming out in all these stories saying, oh, I'm happier in my own body than I could have. Like, I never imagined being this happy in my body, but I permanently altered my body that, she was saying that she has some thing that she'll never fix fully because of all of the drugs and the hormones that she took. But she's saying that she's working back to being her like most authentic self, and she's the most happy. And I think that is what we need to hear more stories about children and, young adults as well, who are realizing that these people are pushing a narrative and an agenda on young children, not only in schools, but now in doctors' offices and in therapy, saying, yeah, you're depressed or you think you're trans. Congratulations, we'll affirm it. You're trans. Here's some drugs for you. Here's some hormones. What's your new name? That's what they say, and that's what these children are being told. When in reality, a lot of them are now realizing that that is not the best thing for them, and it in fact only ruined them.